think I am live. I am just getting this links out. I think I'm live. Hello, everybody. There seems to be some people watching. Good Thursday evening, or morning, or afternoon, or Friday morning. Today is stream day. I want to get a more set time that I stream. I would like Sundays, maybe, especially during Lent, but I can't do it this Sunday, and I really think I did need to. I did owe you guys some content. I'm sorry I had a bad sinus cold last week, so I couldn't stream, but I'm here now, and I have a few things to talk about. This is gonna be maybe the topics won't be so chill, but I'm in a bit of a chill mood. I hope you guys are doing okay. So as the title of the stream indicates, it's the start of Lent. Ash Wednesday was yesterday. I went to church and got my ashes. And, for all Catholics and for Christians, it's certainly a time of reflection, self denial, self mastery in a way to grow closer to God. Christ himself, of course, fasted for 40 days in the desert. And I think it paints a very good contrast to the excesses and evils that we're seeing in the world around us now. I know it's going to be a perennial subject, I suppose, is Epstein, that, a lot more files were released lately. The Trump administration still seems, despite releasing a lot of the files, really reluctant and adamant that we don't talk about it, which is really the worst thing you could possibly do. There's thoughts of, oh, if everybody associated with Epstein got arrested, there wouldn't be anybody left in Congress, which don't threaten me with a good time. And it's everything that we had kind of assumed. It's what was kind of whispered and rumored about of, oh, evil people are in power doing horrible things and they're all colluding with each other. And it seems to be everywhere. I know Prince Andrew, I'm not sure if he himself was related to the Epstein files, but has just been arrested. Mendelssohn of the UK Labour Party has been ejected and has caused a crisis or massive scandal in the UK Labour Party. And, you know, despite all this, we had the very, very infamous briefing by Pam Bondi last week, who I don't really need to say it, but is just an absolutely horrible attorney general. It's been a consummate failure and is making the administration look completely incompetent or corrupt or both. When she literally says, like, hey, why isn't anybody being arrested for the Epstein files? And her only response is well, the Dow is up over 50,000 points. Our 401ks are better than ever. And, it's just the most infuriating, boomer truth regime. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that, right? It's I've been listening to a lot of Tim Dillon, the comedian, just because a lot of his rants on the boomers and just, I think he's a very good comedian in the sense that he strikes a perfect balance of he's younger relative to a lot of stand-up comedians. He's 40, so he's from a newer generation. When I was a teenager, I would listen to or watch a lot of stand-up comedians on Comedy Central, and I was really, really into him. And but I just kind of fell out of favor, and there's only a couple I like. Um, because you just kind of realize, man, all of these stand-up comedians are horribly mentally ill, and the kind of shtick just kind of gets tired. But I think Tim Dillon does a lot of good, fun stuff where he's, it's nihilistic or cynical, but going to certain extremes or having enough restraint that it doesn't feel like that it keeps fresh. But yeah, his little bit of, well, you know, sure were just hurting kids and worshiping Baal, but but the 401ks have never been better. They, you know, so yeah, praise Baal. Baal did more for your 401k than Joe Biden did, and it really is kind of, the left is right about the fact that yeah, there is a cult of Trump, but it goes both ways in the sense of people have Trump derangement syndrome, in which anything he does he lives rent free in their minds. But there's also, of course, the people that took it too far, especially the boomers, right? That absolutely love him and can't criticize him. Now, of course, for my part, I don't think that Trump, you know, could be implicated for any actual crimes against children. I certainly don't think he's into that, thankfully. But he certainly seems to have a type, and it is not underaged. Um, but I think he understands that so much of the apparatus of national security, of our relationship with a certain country in the Middle East, and politics and media and the economy in general, unfortunately, seem to hinge on the fact that you have a circle of people that would be indicted or implicated in horrible crimes with Epstein. And if they all actually started going to jail, a lot of the entire ruling class, or much of it, would be implicated. And it really and this. I love the meme of it's WikiHow, and it's how do you talk to your friend who's a conspiracy theorist, and the answer is you go to him, you pat him on the back, and you say, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry. You were right. I'm sorry for doubting you. You were right about everything." And you kind of feel that way about the whole Epstein stuff of, yeah, rich, powerful people have always colluded, but like that's not surprising, but just the level of it, how it was all organized by this one guy, how and the massive amounts of crimes and trafficking of children and all the literal Satan worship, you know, showing, oh, this was all actually true. Like, our worst nightmares about what the ruling class elites were up to, and the fact that people on both sides, everyone from Steve Bannon to people on the left, were on it. Because you'd watch, they'd have these parties, and the fact that there would be underage slaves there, you know, Epstein could have dirt on these people, and so exchanging favors for favors. Like in an '80s movie, you would think this would be, oh, you have the rich Hollywood producer who has like the pool party with a bunch of models, and that's where he's going to do business to kind of show off his wealth. And rich people always flaunt their wealth to other rich people. That's just kind of what they do, and that's been the way for all of history. A medieval feast, you might have one duke who's like, well, in my party, you know, they had at his party, he had a whole roast boar, or a suckling pig, and all this, and like dancers, or belly dancers from Greece. Well, my party is gonna have a whole roast dolphin and belly dancers from Egypt. uh, they always are trying to flex on each other and distinguish themselves from the poor. But obviously, this raises an existential question, and it's something I really kind of wanted to expound upon, which is that, okay, if it seems like our fears were confirmed, that the ruling class of our modern society is run by, you know, a group of satanic child predators, this raises the question: is it is the only way for an advanced civilization to exist for its elites to be this way, to be devil worshipping predators? And if the answer to this is that, is it, sorry, let me rephrase it. The question I kind of put on Twitter, right, was, is having a ruling class comprised of deranged predators necessary for an advanced civilization to exist? If the answer to it is no, which I believe, then the fact that it currently is warrants complete and total revolution and a complete overthrow of the ruling class, all of them, clearing everybody out, and organizing and making that the top priority of anybody that has a conscience. Of basically saying, we refuse to participate in any way, or at least very reluctantly, in this system in which the people in charge are doing this to children. And there should be a complete and total overthrow of the ruling class, replace them with basically anybody that isn't that way. The problem with this is that takes effort, which the boomer truth regime hates. It requires people to say, okay, something in our post-war consensus world is fundamentally broken and needs to change. And it can only happen by young people or people on the correct side. And I guess in this case, it can encompass both the right and the left to a degree, organizing and actually, building up new institutions and eliminating the old ones. That's the only way to do it. Because if you're going to say, well, yeah, it's wrong, and, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way, but, we can't really, we're not really going to try and do anything, well, then you're complicit in horrific moral evil. But the existential question comes in is, and this kind of goes against the kind of boomer defeatist mindset. Like, on our side, we kind of have or younger people, you just have the idea of, oh, you could just do things. Like Trump closing the border and illegal immigration into the country being down 95% within a couple months. Oh, you actually can just do things. Contrasts with the kind of boomer defeatism of, oh, well, it's always been like this. You can't do anything about it. And the boomer truth regime would, if you have the question is, okay, can an advanced civilization exist without its ruling class being pure evil? And if the answer to that is, well, no, it actually does. Like, all civilizations somehow hinge on the fact that they hinge on the fact that for some reason, some weird quirk, that the people in charge just have to be this evil. And your response to that is either A, well, it's worth it. We're going to have to accept child sacrifice and the blood of lots of innocent people, and the fact that the people that rule us are genuinely devil-worshipping monsters. Because in which case, you're functionally saying that doing these things is not evil, or that we make exceptions for, if you help build the economy. If you're Bill Gates, you can be as evil as possible because you made a computer, you made a software company. But if your answer is, okay, advanced society needs this, and I'm not going to accept it, that's when your only real argument left or position should just be, okay, then fundamentally civilization is evil at its core, and we should go full anarcho-primitivist, just on a moral stance so we can sleep at night. That every institution, everything should just be completely burned down, destroyed, leveled. We should completely reject all of anything in an advanced society and go back to being hunter-gatherer tribes. Because it would be better to do that and accept the consequences of rejecting all of civilization than having to accept that, well, the people in charge we're just going to have to accept that they're pure evil. Now, I don't think that's necessary. I think certainly you have had massive abuses of power throughout history, but particularly with Christianity and with other, various moral philosophies and religions, have helped to curtail the worst of it. Having the concept of noblesse oblige, having the fact that, the king is not above God, that you have at least certain concepts of rights, is a way to curtail evil. Of course, since we've rejected all of those traditions and we're now have liberal democracy, well, and secularism, it's come with the great benefit of, well, the ruling class, that's all there meritocratically, is not bound by religion or morality at all because it's all relative. And so we're horribly shocked when these people don't abide by any morality whatsoever and do the most despicable, evil things imaginable. But yeah, because the boomer mindset, and I've said this, right? Like, my parents, I love them dearly, are very much boomers. And I think that, your individual boomers, like your parents probably are great people. But I think as a generation, they're evil. The mindset, right, of, well, yeah, society's always been like this. It's like, okay, so society has always been run by satanic child predators. And because of fiction, and because, well, really, since the Enlightenment, they've had to demonize, say, the Middle Ages. You'd have to say, oh, because the mindset is, oh, every noble in the Middle Ages was like some sociopathic, self-absorbed, excessive monster. Every priest was either secretly an atheist, horrifically corrupt, or a psychopathic zealot. Well, yes, that will always exist. That wasn't the norm. Society are run by humans, and humans, whilst fallen beings, do have the capacity to do good things and actually, because there's nothing that functionally says that, hey, in order to be in charge of something, you just have to select for these evil tendencies. I don't think that's necessary. But it's kind of apt for the Lenten season to think about this of, I really reject the phrase, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, because it comes from a very, and I see you guys in the chat, well, the thing about Game of Thrones is real life is people act like it because people don't have traditional morality anymore. People don't have the power of Christianity forcing some level of civility amongst the ruling class. But yeah, you have evil people in power, and the mindset of, well, it just always has to be like this. I was talking to my dad a few weeks ago about, we all know, and about like the epidemic. There's many videos about the epidemic of sports betting, of how, okay, we now just have a setting of, we now have a situation in which millions and millions of Americans are now addicted, horribly addicted to this thing. It's ruined sports. It's ruined people's ability to enjoy a game. Like, I'm not a huge sports fan, right? But, I can imagine, like, hey, if I just wanted to watch the game and not be bombarded every 5 seconds with DraftKings and everything, I'd be kind of pissed. And, what's estimated hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent and lost to sports betting. And my dad's like, well, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And it's just this functional defeatism of, so then there is no point in having any laws whatsoever because everybody is just totally powerless to do anything. Like, if it would be the slightest inconvenience, because no, you actually can, as my generation or younger people are wont to say, you can just do things. And so, yeah, John Stunk in the chat saying, do you think it's better to build new institutions or to try and usurp existing ones? What's my opinion on the Benedict option as a pouring parallel? Here's my view, is that I think it's great if there is the Benedict option available for people. Like, towards the end of the Roman Empire, you had people, saints like Saint Benedict, and you had a lot of people, or Saint Marinus, forming monastic aesthetic communes or communities outside of the crumbling secular world around them. And they had actually great success and helped uphold the medieval society that would follow. The small country of San Marino in the middle of Italy has retained its independence since the end of the Roman Empire. And that was started by, I think, Catholic Saint Marinus. And, that's had great success. However, it's not for everybody. You have to have... You need a balance of having the Desert Fathers, of having the monks living outside of the world. But you also need a Clovis. You also need the St. Boniface, the ones that actually go into the secular world. First off, because we're commanded to. We have to spread the gospel. That's not negotiable. But also, so yeah, I think you need to help. You need to do whatever you can. If you can usurp institutions, if you can, take over. I think it was described on a recent episode of the Old Glory Club, right? Where, hey, if you're a young guy, you can go into like your local, I don't know, historian's office or something like that, and you can kind of help take that over because you're certainly going to be the youngest one there. But yeah, you need people living parallel to society, but you also need to be able to go into the world and actually build there. Like, there isn't an escape. The dangers, of course, the whole Shire is there won't be a Shire Pippin, right? It's, you think about a lot of well-meaning Christians, Catholics and evangelicals, that are like, well, there's so much evil in the world, but, we have our nice little wealthy church community that's doing great. And the thing is, okay, the answer, we shouldn't get involved with the culture war or whatever. Well, tell that to the people in that church in Minneapolis who got their church stormed in and were probably horrified by Antifa and anti-ICE protesters because, people have been murdered in churches over the past few years. And hundreds of churches have been incinerated because people think, oh, the residential schools in Canada killed kids. And they didn't, even though it was completely made up. And so that's what's going to happen to your nice little church community. It's only a matter of time before the left comes for it. So, it would be, if the left was in complete power, it would only be a matter of time before they go after the Amish or the Mennonites or the Mormons or, small Catholic or Protestant communities that are trying to live parallel. They won't. The only way to be safe is to take down the left functionally, or basically. So there isn't really running away. There is fortifying communities, making it as anti-fragile as possible. But you have to engage with the culture war. You just have to. But yeah, this is going to be a short stream. I apologize, but I don't have actually that much to say. But what I was also thinking of is just as you're reflecting for Lent. So I am not a wealthy man. I don't even want to be wealthy. Now, of course, people that say that, it's like, if I was offered $20 million, I could just build a house in the Adirondack Mountains and never have to work again. Sure. But I would never want to be amongst the ruling class like this. The people that are that rich, they get so... you think there's the difficulty of Christ's teaching that it's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than a camel to get through the eye of a needle. And I think it's certainly possible. There have been many monarch saints. There have been wealthy people that have been very good Christians. But the mindset of having that much power and that much wealth and excess available is incredibly tempting. Now, I'm not one of these people that thinks, oh, the One Ring Lord of the Rings represents temporal power you should never wield. I certainly don't think that. I'm just thinking that, especially in a totally liberal, secular society, post-sexual revolution, where there is just no breaks, there is no impetus or any sort of morality, system of traditional morality to try and enforce basic civility, the excesses of the rich and the growing wealth gap of, yeah, everybody's getting poorer, but there's billionaires getting unbelievably wealthy. Like, I don't even know what you do with that money at that point. That they just become completely detached from reality, from how normal human beings live. That, and again, on top of that, the reason, I'm not saying eat the rich or anything is because I understand that there should be a ruling class. I just think it's preferable to have an aristocracy operating under the doctrine of noblesse oblige, that there's actually responsibilities and duties enforced upon people that are in positions of power, that following, say, traditional morality, the Confucian understanding of, okay, there's a relationship between the ruler and the subject. Same with the relationship between, say, older and younger siblings, or, parent and child, husband and wife. And again, we have it where there is nothing. There is no breaks. Everything is permissible, and we're shocked. It's the C.S. Lewis quote, right? We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We laugh at morality and are shocked to see that the people given the means to will do the most heinous and evil things possible. And it's at a shock value, too, because the enemy among the left, right, is the reason I think a lot of the satanic imagery comes up is the fact that, in the mindset of people on the left that are in power in Hollywood and entertainment and all that, the enemy is still the evil white Christians. And so being non-white, being gay, and worshiping Satan is the antithesis to that in their minds. And so that's where... So even though Christianity is not in power anymore, it really isn't. We're in a post-Christian Western society, sadly. Now, whilst a lot of Christian leaders will admit this, they don't seem to really want to explain or explore why that is, and are just seem to be resigned to give up and not understand anything about history. And it's why the left does not want you learning real history. It's why they want you... It's why they want your vision of the Middle Ages to be, oh, everything was covered in mud and feces, everybody was miserable, all the religious leaders were corrupt and didn't believe in it really, and all the aristocrats were just monsters. They don't want... It's very difficult, and it makes things very uncomfortable if you actually read real history and look at first-hand sources and understanding, actually, no, these were all human beings, and you kind of have to treat them as such. And the idea, perish the thought, modern listeners, that just as much as we can stand in judgment of the past kind of stands in judgment of us. And we all think, okay, 99% of people would look at us today and think we are complete monsters, utter immoral, just godless barbarians. And they're right. And the idea is, oh no, they will be right. The weight of your ancestors judging you. Which can go too far. But I certainly think we have not thought about that in the modern world. Because we can't think of it. Because the modern premise. The post-war consensus is basically anything pre-1945 is pure evil, and it's just a straight trajectory of progress towards gay space communism. And anything that's interrupting that must be evil and reactionary. But yes, it's. I've kind of said my piece now. Um, in contrast to that, one of my favorite, I think it's might be a Bible quote, or it is certainly an ancient quote, which is, I think it's Egyptian, is better is bread with a happy heart than wealth with vexation. And you especially see this financially. It's funny, as I'm right now just waiting, I've gotten approval for a credit card and I'm just waiting for it to come in. And I'm only just going to use it so I can actually build up some credit because I'm looking for a house soon, hopefully. And the mass debt everybody's in publicly with credit card debt, the financial situation everybody's in, it kind of makes that quotation, and like why I would never want to be like a professional streamer, why I would never want to like, because right before this, just waiting for it to get closer to stream time, it's part of the slop that I can enjoy is like gamer rage compilations, or just the drama that professional streamers, professional, influencers get into. They just seem like the most miserable people on the face of the earth. It's not just, oh, they're smashing their controllers, they're smashing their keyboards and everything, or money issues, e-begging, and all of that. Speaking of which, I think I will start monetizing stuff again, just to make it a bit more worth it and give me more incentive to stream and make content. I'm certainly not going to ask you guys to like block any content off. I hate the fact that there are people that are like, oh, I'm just going to block off live streams so behind a paywall. So the content that takes the least amount of effort, certainly in comparison to edited videos, I'm going to actually make the most difficult to access. But yeah, it's certainly far better, and it's certainly far more liberating to understand, okay, I'm not giving in to temptations. I just don't have access to these means of excess. I think you get what I mean, right? It's, if you can learn to live simply within your means responsibly, you're going to have far less money issues. You're going to sleep better at night. Like, I'm very happy. You could call me, hello, John 005. Thank you for coming. You're going to be far more happy. Like, I'm far more happy that I have a traditional job. I like that, I don't have to accept the responsibility of my own entertainment. My own entertainment is what feeds me, as opposed to I actually just work a real job in a manufacturing setting. I don't make stuff. I'm a quality technician. But, I make an honest living, and I can sleep well at night knowing that. I'm not just e-begging. I'm not selling myself. I'm not doing anything immoral in terms of what I do. And really, I'm living how you should. I'm living the responsible way. And the problem is that does not get rewarded. That gets punished in the modern world. Like, the thing I hate the most about the lol cows, the thing I hate most about, like, again, my poison, my slop is, I will watch, like, videos about, like, my 600-pound life, or lol cows, is that these monsters, these people that have completely given themselves over to gluttony, the way they live is, okay, this is the inner libertarian coming out from me, is that I pay my taxes. I'm very much in the idea that, okay, if we're going to have voting in the modern world, if you're going to have a welfare state, the franchise should absolutely only be limited to people that are net tax contributors, like me. Like, I'm happy to have a fire department, I'm happy to have roads, I'm happy to have all of that. I'm not happy that I learn that, now I don't live in that state, but, everybody on my 600-pound life is they're morbidly obese, obviously. They're living in either a double wide trailer or a house. They own a house, which is more than I can say for myself, even though they don't work. They've never worked a day in their life. They are they're often bedridden, and they get money from the government, from the taxpayer, from hardworking people like me to be fat. Because obesity itself is not, does not net you disability, but a lot of the resultant diseases and conditions from that. So they get to be 600-700 pounds. They steal my oxygen because they have to be on extra oxygen because they've gotten so fat that they can't even breathe normally anymore. They need more air. Air that, pure oxygen that should be going to people that actually, are in a situation that they couldn't help. They were in an accident. Maybe they're elderly. But no, it has to go to, to Debbie in Kentucky in her house with 6 dogs, her enabler husband, and her children that are always named something stupid. Nobody names... As much as I'm ranting about how evil a lot of the wealthy in our society are, it's easy to hate the rich, but do you have the courage to hate the poor? Which is something I'm certain that Christ would be thrilled for me to say. It's more of the attitude of, I am not wealthy. I am not wealthy. I'm certainly poorer than my parents were, or are right now. But I have no debt, and I, don't worry about where my next meal is coming from. I certainly am, on the heavier side. But at the same time, at least I'm earning. But the point of all of this is to say, I play by the rules. And this is me just complaining, right? This is my own boomerisms. I play by the rules. I'm a net tax contributor, absolutely. And yet, it seems like people that they're able to game the system, especially, have stuff with immigrant communities. They game the system, they exploit it, and they get rewarded for it. Lolcows, right? They debase themselves, they horribly embarrass themselves, they're stupid, they're degenerate, and yet, apparently, like we've seen with Chris Chan, the king of all the lolcows, you can do the most unspeakably evil thing to your elderly, dementia-ridden mother, and get away with it because you're famous on the internet. And I know, for vastly less than that, for a traffic violation, I would get more. If I pirated something too much and got caught, then I'd be punished because I'm not internet famous, and I actually contribute to society. But all this to say, as angry as that makes me, and as much as I absolutely want to and encourage people to organize and go after corruption like this, like welfare fraud and all of that, is absolutely needs to be tackled. Because I'm not saying, I at least can live with myself. And you watching, if you're in that situation, you should be able to be happy and proud of yourself. If you at least work and earn for yourself and your family. Because what Lent reminds us of, and why religion's important, is because it shows, in the end, there is a sense of moral balance. That God will sort this out. That when we all have to account for it, the 700-pound man who lives off of disability checks is going to meet God after his heart attack when he's 40, is going to have to explain to him why he made the choices he did. Now, we're all sinners. We're all sinners. But I know I'm not going to have to explain to God why I refused to work, why I, you know, decided to completely overindulge in gluttony, and why I decided to scam other people out of their money. Why I don't have to explain to God why I went to that island with Epstein. You know, I don't have to explain to him why I made those sacrifices to Molech. I'm certainly not perfect, but the mindset that people, both high and low, it seems, at the highest echelons of society or the lowest, who aren't even at the lowest because they get on TV, I can at least hold myself up high and say, you know, I understand that there is a higher moral calling. And as much as and it's better to at least try and follow that and fail, which we all do. We've all fallen short, but it's better to do that. It's better to at least try than to be somebody who just says, I'm rejecting all of this. I don't believe there's any afterlife. I don't believe there's any sense of universal justice. So I'm just going to burn as hard and as fast as possible now. And that's no way to live. And so that's just kind of my thought, what I want my focus on in Lent. And I want to get away from the thoughts of, okay, because the whole appeal of those TLC shows, right? I know it's on A&E, Hoarders. Hoarders is high art, by the way. I love Hoarders. It's funny, I'm rediscovering a lot of, like, just regular kind of reality shows or TV shows that were big in the 2000s, like Hell's Kitchen or Hoarders and all that, because they're now just free on YouTube. Like, you can watch entire seasons of Hell's Kitchen for free. It's great. But because the mindset that they want you to go in on with TLC is me, I'm a fat guy. I know I need to lose weight. And giving up beer for Lent should probably help with that. It's for people like me. It's for the millions of fat people in America to look at these 600-700 pound, slugs and go, well, at least I'm not as bad as they are. And as much as I actually still think there is value in showcasing these people, of showing this is what happens, this is the effect of, profound childhood trauma and lack of any sort of impulse control, is, you could be 200 pounds now, but a few bad decisions. You're one of the guys on Hoarders who cleans stuff, Matt Paxton. He has a great podcast, or he has a great story about seeing a homeless guy who used to be like a real estate broker. And it's like, you're 5 bad decisions away from like being a homeless guy and defecating in a bucket. And yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling on. My broader point is that, and this is the perfect season to do it, is to deny yourself and thereby liberate yourself from like the more base urges that we have, to free yourself from having to worry about the stuff that people both on the highest end of our society and the lowest are completely burdened by. It's just, self-denial can be a greatly liberating thing of just, okay, this is just not part of my life anymore. This thing that I know is harming me, that, it might be a status symbol, it might be good in the moment, I can deny myself that and be a better person for it and be happier. And I think that's just kind of what I wanted to say. That's just kind of my rant, is that, yeah, like, I still approve of a lot of what Trump did. I'm glad he won. I just think that I think he's hit the wall in terms of his usefulness. He's too old. not in terms of his cognitive ability, but just in the fact that he is still, king of the boomers in a way. He's still in that mindset, and we cannot be saved by people that refuse to give up on the boomer truth regime, that refuse to accept that there was anything wrong with the post-war consensus. But yeah, short stream. I hope you found some of this edifying. I'll probably be back next week or next Sunday. I might do gaming stream again. I might make a video, but I will endeavor to at least try making something first every other week. Hopefully get back to making content every week. God bless everybody who watched this. Have a happy Lent. And stay humble. Stay, deny yourself. And you'll be amazed at how much happier you'll be. Have a good night.